Think smart.
Learn deeper.
Grow stronger.
This is Be Smart Max.
All right, let's talk about the union budget. You know how it is. Every year, it's announced, and suddenly everyone on your timeline becomes an expert economist, right? It's filled with jargon, massive numbers. It can be seriously confusing. But stick with me, because today we're going to break it all down.
Does this sound familiar? Yeah. After the finance minister's speech, you see comments like this everywhere. It's a pretty common feeling. A lot of frustration, a sense that your hard-earned tax money isn't really doing much. But what if there's a much simpler way to understand the whole thing?
And here's the secret. What if we just thought about our entire country as one big, giant joint family? Seriously. In this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll use this one simple idea to make sense of the national budget. By the end, I promise, it'll all click into place. So, let's get started.
Okay, so first things first. Let's forget about this being some complex government document. For the next few minutes, the budget is just a big family meeting about money. Think about it. In a big joint family, all the earning members might give their salaries to, say, the mother. She holds the family's money. Then everyone gathers to talk about expenses. The younger brother wants to go on a trip, the older sister's wedding is coming up, but dad points out that the roof is leaking and needs urgent repairs. The mother, who's like the government here, has to listen to everyone, weigh all the needs, and decide what's most important right now. That's the union budget in a nutshell. So now that we've got our family story straight, let's peek into their account books. It's really no different from how that family would keep track of its income and expenses. Basically, you've got three types of budgets. A surplus budget, where you earn more than you spend, nice. A balanced budget, where everything evens out. And then there's a deficit budget, where you spend more than you earn. Now here's where it gets interesting. For a family, a deficit is worrying, right? But for a government, it's not always a bad thing. See, a family's goal might be to save money, but a government's goal is public welfare, and that often means spending big on things that will help the country grow.
And that deficit, well, it can be absolutely massive. Just look at this number. That was the gap between what our national family earned and what it spent last year. It's a huge figure, which leads to the most important question of all. If the family is spending this much more than it earns, where on earth is that extra cash coming from?
And the answer is borrowing. We call this the national debt. It's just like our family deciding to take a loan from the bank to fix that leaky roof and pay for the wedding. The government borrows money to cover that shortfall and keep all its projects and payments going. So, okay, let's dig into the family's income. Before we even get to borrowing, where's the money coming from in the first place? This chart tells such a clear story. For every single rupee that the government gets, look where it comes from. You've got your big chunks from income tax and GST, sure, but look at the biggest piece of the pie, borrowings. For every 1 rupee the government has, a whopping 24 paisa is borrowed money. It's not tax, it's not profit, it's a loan. All right, so we've seen the income side. Now let's flip the book and look at the other side of the ledger. Where's all this money actually going? What is our family spending it on? Here are the biggest expenses. The Ministry of Finance gets the largest allocation by far, and you know what a huge chunk of that is? It's just for paying the interest on all that national debt we just talked about. We're talking over 14 lakh crore rupees. That's like our family having to pay off the interest on its past loans before it can even think about buying this month's groceries. After that, you see the big spending on defense, roads, and railways. And you know, when you dig into the fine print, you find some really interesting and kind of strange things. For instance, a massive slice of that defense budget isn't for new equipment, it's actually for pensions. And get this, the Department of Posts gets double the funding of our space agency, ISRO. The source material also pointed out a funny little detail. For all the money going into shiny new highways, there was no specific budget mentioned for actually teaching people how to drive on them. Okay, so every budget isn't just about paying the bills. It's also about the future. So, what were the family's big new plans that got announced this year? This year, the focus was really on long-term goals. We're talking about big projects like modernizing the entire textile industry, creating a special corridor for rare earth minerals in the south, and a major push for urban infrastructure, including high-speed rail. There's also a plan to turn parts of the country into medical tourism hubs and to seriously upgrade the training for our tourist guides. Now, here's the key takeaway for all these big ideas. Patience. These are all ambitious, forward-thinking plans, which is great, but they are not quick fixes. These aren't things you'll see the results of next month. If they're done right, the benefits will show up years down the line.
All right, you've been a fantastic listener, but now it's your turn to do a little work.
we're going to lock in one of the most important concepts for understanding any budget. And we're going to do it with a quick little test.
Let's talk about the difference between capital and revenue expenses. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. Think of it like this. Deciding to install solar panels on your roof. That's a capital expense. You spend a big chunk of money once, and you create an asset that gives you value for years. But paying your electricity bill every single month, that's a revenue expense. It's just a recurring cost to keep the lights on. It doesn't build anything for the future. See the difference?
Okay, you got that? Capital is building something new. Revenue is paying the running costs. With that in mind, ready for a quick quiz? I'm going to list some government expenses. You just have to decide if they're capital or revenue.
Here they are. We've got scholarships for students, salaries for government employees, buying Rafale jets for the Air Force, funding new power plants, fertilizer subsidies for farmers, and construction of new AIMS hospitals. Go ahead and pause right here, take a second, and try to sort them out. Ready to see the answers?
And there you have it, the Rafale jets, the power plants, the new hospitals. Those are all capital expenses. They create long-term national assets. The scholarships, the salaries, and the subsidies are revenue expenses. They're essential recurring costs to run the country. How'd you do? Honestly, if you get this difference, you're already ahead of 90% of people when it comes to analyzing a budget.
So we've broken down the numbers and the concepts, but truly understanding the budget means knowing what questions to ask about it. So let's wrap this up by looking at some of the really tough questions that were raised in the source material.
Now, the sources we looked at raised some pointed questions. For example, why was there no major discussion in the budget about the falling value of the rupee? Another big one was, why do so many middle-class folks face such long delays in getting their income tax refunds? And maybe the biggest question of all, does it feel like the entire tax burden of the country is falling on a relatively small number of honest taxpayers? These are the kinds of debates that an informed citizen should be thinking about.
And that brings us right back to where we started, our family analogy. If our nation really is one big family, then this budget makes us ask two very important questions. First, is every member of the family doing their fair share? And second, and maybe most importantly, are the heads of the family, the government, spending our collective money on the right priorities to build a better future for everyone? That's the real question, and I'll leave you with that to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.